Hi, I'm Marnie Pearson, and I work with talented people who have messages to share with the world. They have a solution that other people need, specifically in their knowledge, their expertise, and their life lessons. Now, as I work with these people, I see the same thing come up over and over again. They're offering consulting, coaching, mentoring, something like that. Maybe they have a book, but they're not generating the revenue that they'd like to. Now, the reason that they're not is because of two things we're going to teach you about marketing today. Okay? So if this is you, keep listening because I'm going to give you an answer and you're going to want to hear it. Let me give you an analogy. I used to play basketball. Okay, and I don't know if you've ever played basketball before, but in basketball, if you've got the ball and you've already dribbled and you can't dribble again, or maybe you just haven't dribbled yet, you can't decide exactly where you want to go yet, you can plant one foot and that becomes your pivot point. Okay, and from that pivot point, you don't move that one foot. You can move the other foot. You can use the ball. You can go in any direction with that ball. You got 360 degrees range of motion. Okay, now a lot of people do this in their businesses. They try to market their pivot point. Okay, now what's an example of a pivot point? My friend Phil Davis gave me this example. It happened in his little town of Brevard, North Carolina. He's a branding guy up there, tungsten branding. And there was a man who came to the Chamber of Commerce, and he was a tuxedo guy, had rented tuxedos. And his business was really good during the wedding season, prom season, rest of the time, crickets. And Phil suggested that he change how he viewed himself. Instead of seeing himself as the tuxedo guy, see himself as someone who makes men look good. I make men look good. And from there, the man was able to expand his offerings to include cards or candy or flowers or anything that would make a man look good. And those things could be needed year round, smoothed out the man's cash flow and significantly helped his business. Now, the two things that Phil helped that man do is come up with a pivot point, that range of motion. I help men look good. Sometimes we don't have a range of motion that is big enough. If it's just I rent tuxedos, that's really tight. And a lot of people, they don't want to niche because they feel like if I niche down, then it's like a straight jacket. Okay. And so you don't want the straight jacket niche. What you want is the broad pivot point. So maybe your pivot point is I help empower families, or I alleviate stress, or I help people really take charge of their bodies and own their bodies and really feel great in their bodies. That may be your broad pivot point. But you don't market the pivot point directly. Instead, you create micro niches within the pivot point. So, for example, the flowers, the rented tuxedos, the boutonnieres, the cards, the cookies, the candy, whatever it is, the reminder service of anniversaries or whatnot that makes the man look good. Those are your individual products and services. So let's take someone who helps somebody feel good in their body. If you just sell broad health coaching, that's too broad. You're not going to be able to make the sales that you could be making. Now, that's a great pivot point, but it's not something to build products or services around. What you want to build the products and services around are individual people with individual problems. I always say when you create a product or service, create one product for one person to solve one problem. And as you solve the problem for the one, you solve it for the many who share the same problem. So for example, the nutrition coach might have a product or service to help people who suffer from IBS. They might also have a product for people with chronic fatigue, or another product that helps someone recover after chemo and radiation and they want to rebuild their bodies. Okay, so do you see how these pivot points, that pivot point gives you the ability to create multiple products and services, and you're never going to get bored. You're never going to feel restricted. You're not going to feel so tight like a lot of people do when they say, oh, I have to have a niche and I'm zoning in on all this and I feel so trapped. You don't have to feel that way. Not if you use a pivot point and create multiple products and services. Now, the biggest challenge that I see once people get that much of a principle, that they have is that they don't know how to create those products and services that really deliver, really speak to that audience. And I have a system that helps you do that. I take you through and help you create those micro niches, identify them, create the products, and give you a templated system you can use over and over again for every product within your pivot point. You can keep using it over and over again. You won't even need me after we walk you through the first one. You're going to have it down to a science, okay? And you're going to be able to create all the products, services, events, retreats, whatever it is that you want to create. So let's talk. If you've got something that you really feel on your heart needs to be shared with the world and it needs to be shared now, let's do it, okay? Whatever's standing in your way, I can help you through it. We'll knock it out of the way. I've got your back. Let's talk, okay? Let's brainstorm around your pivot point and your possible micro niches.